There's a specific kind of pain that nobody really talks about. It's not the pain of loss or failure or grief, even though those are real. This is different, quieter, more disorienting. It's the pain of calling out and hearing nothing back. You pray, you wait, you pray again, you try different words, you try no words at all, just sitting there, heart open, and still, nothing. Your words hit the ceiling and fall back down onto the floor in front of you. No sign, no answer, no sense that anyone is even listening. And the worst part is that the silence doesn't feel neutral. It feels personal. It has weight. And your mind starts trying to explain it. Maybe you did something. Maybe there's a sin you haven't dealt with, a failure that disqualified you from the connection you used to feel. Or maybe, and this is the thought most people are too afraid to say out loud, maybe there's nobody there at all. Maybe you've been talking to a ceiling this whole time. If you've ever been in that place, this is for you. Because I want to talk honestly about what the silence actually means. And I promise you, it's not what you think. The first thing you need to understand is that the silence is not unique to you. I know it feels that way. When you're in it, the silence makes you feel completely isolated. Like there's some open frequency between God and everyone else, and you're the only one in a dead zone. But look at the people in Scripture who were closest to God. David, a man after God's own heart, wrote in Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from my cries of anguish? I cry out by day, but you do not answer." That's not a lukewarm believer. That's David, the man who stood before Goliath without flinching, the man who danced before the Lord in the streets. He knew the silence. He sat in it. And then there's Job. The Bible explicitly describes him as blameless, and yet God allowed everything to be stripped from him, his wealth, his family, his health, and then went quiet while Job sat in the rubble, trying to understand what he'd done wrong. Job cried out. He argued. He demanded answers. For a long time, the only responses he got were from friends telling him he must have sinned. But here's what's crucial. The silence wasn't because Job was far from God. It was happening right in the middle of one of the most intentional spiritual encounters in all of Scripture. That reframes everything. If it happened to David and Job, the silence is not proof that something has gone specifically wrong with you. When the silence comes, we immediately build a story around it. God is punishing me. I'm not good enough. I've been abandoned. Maybe this faith thing isn't even real. I'm not going to tell you those thoughts are weak or faithless. They're the natural response of a human mind trying to process something it can't see or measure. The questions don't mean you're failing. But here's what I want you to sit with. There is a massive difference between silence as abandonment and silence as intention. A surgeon doesn't narrate to the patient while operating, not because they've lost interest, but because what they're doing requires total focus. The quiet in the operating room isn't emptiness. It's the sound of something serious happening. The silence isn't a sign the work has stopped. It's a sign the work is the most critical it's ever been. Or think about a potter with clay. The hands are pressing, shaping, spinning. And from the clay's perspective, it's just pressure and disorientation. But step back and you can see something is being formed. Something with purpose and shape. Something the clay couldn't understand from the inside. The silence you're sitting in right now, it might not be the absence of God. It might be His workshop. This is the distinction I really want to sit on for a minute. Testing and abandonment look almost identical from the inside. That's what makes this so hard. When God is testing you, you feel alone. When God has abandoned you, you feel alone. The emotional experience is nearly the same. So how do you tell the difference? Job never got a full explanation for what he went through. God never sat down with him and said, "Okay, here's why." But what God did do, eventually, was show up. He spoke from the whirlwind. He reminded Job that there are things in motion too large for any human mind to hold. And what's interesting is that God didn't rebuke Job for his questions. He rebuked Job's friends, the people who were giving easy, religious answers to a complicated situation. God was not offended by Job's honesty. God was offended by false comfort. That should mean something to you if you've been sitting in silence and feeling guilty about it. God is not punishing you for the questions. The questions are part of the process. David went through seasons of silence so raw that he wrote them down as songs. Psalms 13, 22, 88. These are basically documented experiences of feeling like God wasn't there. But David never walked away. He kept writing. He kept praying. He kept showing up even when it felt pointless. And then there are the Psalms of breakthrough. The "He brought me up out of the pit" moments. The "I cried out and He heard me" moments. The silence wasn't the end of the story. It was the middle of it. I think there's something the silence is meant to produce that no other season can produce. When everything is flowing, when you feel connected, when the answers are coming, when life makes sense, it's easy to follow. It's easy to believe. It doesn't take much from you. But the silence strips away everything that was performance, everything that was routine, everything that you were doing because it felt good. And what's left after all of that is gone? That's the real thing. That's the faith that actually means something. There's a reason athletes train in conditions harder than the actual competition. There's a reason surgeons practice on simulations before they operate on real people. The pressure of the training is what builds the capacity for the moment that matters. If God is silent right now, one of the things He may be doing is finding out and letting you find out what you're actually made of. Not in a cruel way, in the way a father pushes his kid a little further than they think they can go, because he can see something in them that they can't see yet. You don't grow in the answered prayers. You grow in the waiting. So let me leave you with this. If you are in a season of silence right now, if God feels distant, if your prayers feel unanswered, if the faith you use to feel so clearly has gone quiet, I'm not going to tell you it doesn't hurt. It does. It's supposed to. But I will tell you this. Silence is not the same as absence. David came out the other side. Job came out the other side. And the faith they carried after was not the lightweight version they had before. It was something that had been tested and it held. You don't have to feel it right now. You don't have to manufacture some kind of spiritual high to prove that you're okay. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is just stay. Stay in it. Keep showing up. Keep talking even when it seems like no one is answering. Because the silence doesn't mean He's gone. Sometimes it means He's working. And the work He does in the quiet, that's the work that changes everything.